Okay, good morning, everyone. Let me know that you can hear me. If there's any problems, you should be able to see the charts and the screens. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Pro Trade Room Plus course CPI. My name is Lee Goldstein. I'm the Trading Director at 10-Minute Trades. Please remember all the trades we discuss are for educational purposes, so please trade carefully. Okay, good morning, everyone. So let's talk about the US CPI report. The general consensus is that inflation hopefully is slowing. So that will be a good thing for the markets. If it is exactly as they expect, inflation should be continuing to drop. So that'll be a big plus, okay? And the key numbers we'll be looking at will be year over year January and the month over month January as well. It's still, CPI is still pretty high, 6.2%. So we shall see. For us, we all know that for us, what we're looking for is a move in one direction from the report. That's what we're looking for. All right. So let's talk about what CPI has been doing, how it's been behaving, and then we'll get cracking on it. So first things first, let's look at the DMM. We have two setups that we like for this event. So the methods that we like trading this report, crude oil has been working very well. So crude oil, we have been trading with CPI for quite a few months. We've slightly updated the targets, so keep an eye on that. And the approach you want to take, and we'll get into this in a little bit, the approach you want to take is with crude, the second target could possibly be significantly bigger. So just be prepared to move your target if you get the opportunity. So in other words, if it looks like the price of oil, the target is going to be further than 22 ticks, you might have an opportunity to move your target further away. So keep that in mind. Obviously, if it's a super fast move, you don't get that opportunity, but we should. And then we have traded bonds before on this report. And again, we've updated the targets and the bracket. So we'll get into the exact setup in a few minutes. I'm going to sync my computer early, and then we'll talk about margins for a minute because this is going to be a higher margin trade. That's definite. So I'm going to go to the website, time is, and just check the sync on my computer. And my computer is in sync. So in the trade room file folder called the room drive, as we talk about every trade room, in this folder, there's a program called let me show you what it's called. If you slide down a little bit, D4 time, that program is the Dimension 4 time sync program, and that will allow you to sync your computer if when you go to the website time.is, your computer is never in sync or not in sync. So you can download that program, run it, and it will sync your computer. Let's look at last month's CPI report. So last month we were looking at bonds and oil. Also December's in there as well. So, we could look at December. So in last month, November's in it also. So let's look at a few of the previous reports. Okay, so this was December. And in December, we had bonds and we had crude. Now, crude is 2 days from rollover. So volume is okay this morning. You just want to keep an eye on crude this week because it is rollover week. So we had a range trade on oil and we are doing a breakout now. Okay, we like the breakout better. And bonds, we have a breakout. So in December, we were just testing bonds and looking at them, and we were trading crude as a range trade, and it worked. Okay, the crude range trade worked, but we discovered in our testing that we do like the breakout better. Now in November, there was also a very nice move on crude. You can see it here. It had a very good opportunity for profit in November. We were looking at the ES, but we are finding that the ES can freeze on this report. So we're trying to avoid instruments that freeze. And then last month we traded bonds. And quite a few people traded oil as well. So this morning you want to keep an eye on margins. Bonds were a very nice trade, and crude had a very nice trade as well. So one of the things we have to keep an eye on this morning, as I said, is margins. Most of you who are out there are Ninja Trader customers or clients. In the file folder, again, in that room folder, we have a document that says margins. So you can look at that. You can download that document. If you're an AMP customer, you can click on the link for AMP. What AMP is doing is 25% of the maintenance margin. So for instance, if for instance AMP has a $5,000 on crude is their normal margin, not the day trade margin. They're going with their higher margin, and you take 25% of it. So they're about $2,500 per contract. AMP is on crude, for instance. And then on bonds, they have lower than Ninja's margins. Ninja's margins let me grab the right. Here's the document for Ninja. 10 minutes before the trade, Ninja Trader will raise the margins. Right now it appears that margin's normal, but it will go higher because when you click on the trade desk calendar on this document, they show you the events that they are going to have high margin trading on. And it's this week's CPI and PPI. So that is what they're doing this week so far. Okay, and they have the right to change that at any moment if they want to. So then if you look at their margins, for instance, their ES margin is, their maintenance margin is 10,600 per contract. And they're charging the full amount. So you have to have, you should have at least 15,000 in your account to trade one ES. And don't forget that our software puts 2 orders on. So you need double the margin. Don't forget you need double the margin. So for instance, on crude with Ninja, let me find it. They're roughly 6,600 per contract. So that's 12,000 for one contract of crude, and that's the bare minimum. You need to have $16,000 in your account to trade crude on this report. MCL is much less. You're looking at roughly $700 per contract. So MCL is a lot smaller, obviously. MES is much smaller. But again, we're sticking with crude and bonds on this report today. We're looking for the higher liquidity instruments if we can. So ZN is about a little bit ballpark 2,000 per contract. So you want to keep that in mind, 2,000 per contract. ZF, which is the 5-year note, ZN is the 10, is down to 1,300 per contract. And again, you have to double the margin because we're putting orders above and below the price, and the brokers count that as 2. Margin times 2. So crude is, full-size crude is the most expensive to trade in this particular trade right now for today. So let me show you a couple more videos. Here's November. And like I said, we've had a variety of different setups on this event. Back in November, we were trading the ES. We had a range trade, but we still were on crude. Okay, so crude's been nice and reliable on this report. And the ES, look at the whipsaw that the ES had on this report. That's the ES on the right. Whereas crude had a burst, but it didn't whip. Okay. So that's a major reason, and the ES froze. You see the price is not even moving. It froze for quite a while. Look how long the market froze on the ES. There's no denying this is a high volatility situation. And I do want to welcome everybody to our stream. We are streaming on YouTube. So I do want to welcome everybody to our live stream. And thank you all for coming. Don't forget to hit the like button for us. So you can see the volatility in the ES. Even crude has volatility, but it's certainly more manageable than the ES was. And even with a very, very big range like that, back in November, we were still able to walk away with a profit on crude. Okay. Any questions? Any questions? Everybody understand about margin? Now, AMP did send out they sent out a email to all their customers. They listed about 7 reports that they considered high margin reports. NFP, the U.S. jobs report, was on that list. CPI and PPI are on that list. So this is one of the high volatility reports. So I'm going to set up crude. I'm not trading crude live. I'm going to watch it. I'll set it up. So the strategy for crude, it's a breakout trade, and it's got an activation time of 8:29:59. It's got a bracket of 10. And you can put your targets, you can range your targets anywhere between 8 and 40 ticks, I would say. And we're going to use a target of 8 and a target of 22. And then for full-size crude, you can use a 20-tick stop. For MCL, you can use a 30-tick stop. So you got a breakout trade. Crude, we've got an 8:29:59 entry. We've got a bracket of 10. We've got a target of 8 ticks and 22 ticks and a stop of 20 ticks. And then make sure you know if you're trading live or in sim, put your account. Turn off your account warnings if you're trading live. I'm going to label the trade just crude. I'm going to call it crude. And make sure that you're trading CL 323 is the chart. Okay. And I'm going to save today's template. CPI CL break, and I'll just call it today's date is 2/14. And I'm just going to look at my brackets size-wise by setting my time to 0. And don't forget CL 323. And I'm triggering at 8:29:59. 8:29:59. And let me just put my screen on for 1 second. Okay, and welcome everyone to the Pro Trader and Plus and the CPI report. Welcome everyone to the Pro Trader and Plus and the US CPI report. Okay, that's just for our video. Let's set up the bond trade. So on bonds, we're at ZN 323. Bonds, I'm using a bracket of 7. The entry time is 8:29:59. I'm using a bracket of 7. I've got a target of 8. $15 and $24. Oops, hang on. I hit my keyboard, I'm sorry. Bracket of 7. I've got a target of 8, 15, and 24 ticks. The stop is 20. It's a breakout trade, 8:29:59. And if my second target is hit, I'm going to move my stop to break even +1. I think I'll go a little higher than that. I'll go to break even +4 on that. If my second target gets hit, and then we'll scroll down, make sure that my account warnings are turned off. The input series should match the chart, okay? Input series matches the chart. Our stop is 20, okay? And then I'm going to label the trade bonds. And I'm trading for real, so I'll check my bracket in a second. That's bonds. And I'll save my template. And we'll call it CPI, ZN breakout, and label it today. Okay, that's my setup for bonds. I'll go back and we'll check our time sync again in a second. Let me just check my brackets. So I'm going to go back, look at the software, highlight my event. It's a breakout. I'm going to put my time on 0 just for a second. I'm going to make sure that my charts are on sim when I test my brackets. And now with my time on 0, I can shrink my brackets like so. Go back and put my time back on 8:29:59, which is the trigger. Bracket of 7, targets between 8 and 30 ticks. The stop is 20. If my second target gets hit, I'm going to move my stop to break even +4. We're trading ZN 323. Real charts, real account, bonds. Account warnings are turned off. Apply it, okay it, put my charts on live. So the important news is the January CPI and the year over year and the month over month. It's expected that inflation has been moderating and going down. So that's what we want to see. That's what the markets want to see for good news. And then for us, of course, we just want a good move in one direction. I'm going to check my time sync one more time by going to the website time.is. And by doing that, my computer is in sync. And I'll go over the crude setup one more time. Breakout trade with a 829.59 trigger. The bracket is 10. Targets between 8 and 40. The stop is 20 on regular crude. You can go a little higher on MCL to 30. And then make sure that your account warnings are off if you're trading live, and that your input series is CL323. That's the chart we're trading. And then I have my trade labeled. When you label a trade, it shows up in the control panel labeled, okay, under the word strategy. That's why we label it, so we could see we have two separate trades. One is bonds, one is crude. So hopefully inflation is moderating. It seems like it is. Food prices are tough, that's for sure. Certain elements in our everyday lives, it doesn't seem like inflation's moderating all that much, but overall, they're looking at a tremendous amount of different values, not just looking at one item. So taken as a whole, inflation is still high, but it is getting better. All right, so we've got 2 minutes. I'm not going to really pay attention to my crude. I'm going to watch my bond trade because my bond trade is live. And I have target to stop move. So if it hits my target 2, my stop should move into positive territory. And I'm sure that there's folks out there trading all sorts of different instruments, because many different instruments will move on this news. All right, we've got about 35 seconds. So we're watching and waiting. Fifteen seconds. Okay, not a bad trade. Not a bad trade. I'm not going to say anything. It went very fast. Looks like it hit. I'll tell you what happened in a second. So what happened is it hit 2 of my targets, pulled back, and hit my third a little tighter than it could have been. I had a very nice trade, over $400. I want to get a roll call when everyone's done. I want to get a roll call when everyone's done, but let's relax for a second and watch the market. Just let the price trade. If your trade is over, type in what happened to you and whether or not you traded live. Did you make money on this trade? Type in if you traded live or sim and exactly what happened to you on the event. Anybody want to type in? Fred, making $35 live on MCL is like making $350. Okay? Because that's 10% of full-size crude. 10% of full-size crude. Anyone else trade? Anybody else? Now, the bond trade was relatively painless. It was for me, it was relatively painless. It hit 2.5 of my targets. It's interesting, Ali, I didn't have to move my targets at all. I didn't have to move my targets at all. Now, Ali, very possibly because I had my break even +4. It looked to me like what happened was it hit my first 2 targets and then took me out at break even +4 on my third. So even though it looked like it went all the way, you can see that it didn't. SS3. It hit my stop when my stop moved to break even +4. Ali, that's a very good trade. You had a very good trade. Lewis, very nice. Lewis traded ZF, everybody. Turn off your trades. Disable your trades, okay? Look at these changes in direction. Let's look at the news. Let's backtrack for a second here. Let's see what happened in the news. The news is not good, all right? It's not horrible, but it's not great. It was matching month over month, 0.5. The important number, 6.4, is higher than expected, higher than expected. That is considered bad news, in my opinion. That's considered bad news. CL, who traded, anyone trade full-size CL? Did anyone have a big enough account that they could trade full-size CL? So we'll look at the video in a minute. We'll look at the video in a minute. Look at this reversal in bonds. Let's look at a couple of instruments. Lou traded ZF 323, and that, not surprising, looks exactly like ZN. So keep in mind that ZF is a lower margin instrument, like we said in the beginning, that you could trade for bonds, okay? I would bet $1 million gold had an awesome move on this report. Looks just like bonds, no surprise there. Shot down, reversed up. NQ, I'm sure it had a fantastic move. Was it tradable? If you're not watching it at the moment of the report, that's what you need to see. Interestingly, NQ shot down on the initial reaction and looks just like very similar to bonds as well. ES, I would think, looks like the NQ. ES looks very, very much like the NQ. Shot down on the initial reaction, reversed up. So the ES, a little bit positive on the morning. Anyone else trade? Just a few out there trading? Just a few? No one else? No one else? Just checking in, folks. No one traded. No one traded the ES or the NQ. I mean, I'm kind of glad everyone listened, because those instruments have been much tougher to trade, and bonds gave us a perfect setup. It looks like oil gave us an excellent setup. Chantal, you out there trading or no? Okay, there's Chantal. Chantal, ZF did not work for you. How come, what happened on ZF for you? What happened on ZF? What setup did you use? What setup did you use? Too big a target. Okay, too big a target. So in this particular day, if you look at today, because it was a pretty big reversal on many of the main instruments that we were interested in trading, right? So you did not have a large amount of time to get the downward move on ZF or on bonds. They reversed, okay? Into the second minute, price was reversing. Weldon traded CL and ZN. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Let's take a look at the video. What I'm very happy to see is I don't see anybody having a difficult trade. Most everybody seems like they made money. That's our job, to help you do that. So I'm happy, very happy about that. There's no denying that these are gut-wrenching trades. They're very stressful because the brokers are making it even more stressful by raising the margin. I don't think the margins need to be raised in on these trades. I think that we are all grown up enough to trade a small amount of contracts. And let's be honest, everybody, the brokers are not raising the margins for us. They're raising the margins for them. It's not like they're trying to protect us. They're trying to protect themselves from bad traders who blow up their accounts and can't pay for it. So we are the victims of all the bad traders out there. Do you follow me? Langford, very, very nice, saving a trade that didn't work. Really glad to hear it. Why did your ZN get stopped? What setup did you use? Did you get a bad fill? I'm wondering. Because I'm just wondering about your fill on ZN. So let me look at my fill. Let's compare fills on ZN, if we could, just because I know you're not in the US. And I'd be very curious about your fill. So I got entered on my first target at 205. You know, we got the same, Weldon, you and I got the same entry. Same entry, Weldon. Okay, Langford, so you had a trailing stop. So sometimes a trailing stop can get in the way of a profit. So what happened, what Langford's saying, because there was such a big pullback, it went from profit to pullback, that before his trade was over, it hit his trailing stop, and his stop was still in negative territory. So what saved me is that instead of using a trailing stop, what I did was I used the software feature. If my second target gets hit, target 2 stop move. So I had 3 positions. If target 2 gets hit, move my stop. And I had typed in +4. And in fact, the price did pull back. It did pull back. And it did take me out of the trade at +4, but that was my third position. Because the testing was so good on this report, and because I knew my account could afford 6 contracts, even though I was only trading 3, right? But I traded 3 positions instead of 2. Now, Langford has been with us for a long time. He took a reversal, and he's really good at doing that. He made his money back, plus about $800 on one contract, he's saying. It was a fantastic reversal. It was a fantastic reversal. Let's look at the video. I'm glad to see even anyone that had a difficult trade found a way to make it a good trade. So that's a good thing. hang on, let's take a look at this video. But what I was saying is these are nerve-wracking trades. I do feel that this is a high-quality trade, even though it's nerve-wracking. I think that it's probably a family money trade if you're willing to take the risk. Here's the event. All right, so I think that we had a variety of good setups. That were safe. All right, let's look at the move on crude first. Crude was gorgeous. Just a gorgeous move. Down, just straight down, straight down. I mean, if I were going to call any of these trades a family money trade, I think the crude portion of this trade next month will be a family money trade. We've been calling this a family money trade, and I would say it's definitely a family money trade. Look at crude. It's just been making money month after month. Bingo. And it's proven by almost everybody that traded crude or MCL made money on it. And now looking at bonds, bonds were choppy. And sometimes you don't see that on the 1 minute chart, right? Sometimes you don't see the chop on a 1 minute chart. In the recording, we were on the 1 minute. And here goes our setup. Now, so you could see what happened to me. It never hit my third target, okay? It never hit my third target. Not the full target. Not the full target. Nevertheless, because I traded 3 positions, I was able to get a nice profit out of it. Very fast moving trade, not too fast, but there was a little bit of slippage, definitely because of the speed of the move. That's no surprise either. You know, of course, we're thinking about that in our setups. We're absolutely thinking about that in our setups. I do want to thank everybody on YouTube. Chantal, if you want to close YouTube, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Hit the like button on your way out, and we'll see you at our next stream of the week next week. So thank you on